welcome back to the Business That Matters Spotlight. My name is Warren Coughlin, your host. You ever seen gifts that come either in your home or to a corporate office and it's just got all kinds of cellophane and unnecessary packaging and you kind of think, man, how's that good for the environment? Well, our guest today had the same thought. And he's created a business that actually addresses some of those. It's a gift-giving business that also does a lot of good in the world. So today we're going to talk about how that kind of decision-making gets made, some of the challenges that happen when the supply chain doesn't always support your objectives, and some counterintuitive things that happen when people start socializing what happens to gift giving. So our guest today is Saul Brown of It's Saul Good Gifts. Welcome to the show, Saul.
Thanks, Warren. Yeah, happy to be here.
So listen, we always start the show just because we recognize that some people, they're on a commute and they don't always have time to listen to a whole show. So we always like to make sure they get value and say, what's one tip that you give an entrepreneur who wants to, integrate some good or do some good with their business?
Yeah, like my tip for any entrepreneur that wants to do good in their business is to do something that's values aligned and meaningful to them. And where there's values alignment personally into the business, I think it's the easiest to execute. It comes through authentically, and you'll create value at least internally to feel good about what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. And do you think that requires, a lot of people, we hear that term values alignment, but candidly, a lot of entrepreneurs start a business because they're just excited about it and they haven't done a lot of values reflection. When you say values alignment, does it require people to spend a lot of, time meditating about their values or just sort of follow an impulse?
I think it's about what feels right for you. Everyone knows what's right for them. I guess, I think to have impact, it's easiest to do when it's authentic. So if it authentically feels right to you, then it will work. It'll work and create value. If it doesn't feel authentic, it'll be hard to execute and create value from.
What does, just tell us a little bit about It's All Good. What do you do? Who do you do it for? What do you provide?
Yeah, so Saul Good Gift Co. is a corporate gift basket business. We help our clients build relationships through gifts. And we do it with meaning by really sourcing locally, by working with local small artisan suppliers. We package the gifts environmentally friendly in 100% recycled gift boxes, and work with all kinds of different suppliers, social enterprises, to create value in the community. So creating good jobs, minimizing footprint, and really creating local employment across the country. We do it for all kinds of different companies, professional service firms, real estate businesses, law firms, film and television, all kinds of different folks who are really looking to appreciate people. And it can be appreciating client appreciation, or it could be internal and appreciating teams. So yeah, that's the kind of scope of the work we do. We're based in Toronto and distribute out of Vaughan, sourcing locally within Ontario, and also in Vancouver, sourcing locally within BC. So we distribute regionally across Canada, out of Toronto and out of Vancouver, and source local in those environments, which is a little bit unique in how we've constructed our business.
And is it hard to find those local suppliers or partners?
When we started, it was. So we started back in 2006. And back in 2006, we had to explain to people why sourcing local was important. But yeah, now everyone gets it. When the pandemic hit, everyone knew someone, and people know businesses that, weren't able to operate and close down, and everyone intimately knows how important it is to support locally owned businesses. So yeah, when we started, there weren't a lot of micro. Well, there were folks, but yeah, over the years, that space has really grown a lot. The quality of the products, the quality of the packaging and presentation, and also the success stories of working with small businesses that have grown and been able to scale up and do more.
Hmm. I want to touch on that in a second, but you said something when you described the business that I want to pick up on because it's interesting. You didn't say we're a gift giving business or a gift packaging business. You said we're about building relationships through gift giving, and it's an interesting distinction. Can you just talk about that a little bit and how you arrived at that? Like, is that marketing speak or is there something deeper behind that?
Yeah, well, that's a really good question, Warren. So originally, I guess it really, I can tell the story of like how I came across this business, because I never thought I'd be in the I never thought about being in the gift basket industry. I grew up in Toronto, and I had this summer job. I was delivering candy for this company and driving all around the city, the sprawling GTA. As everyone's familiar with the traffic and getting around. And like I was delivering products to all these warehouses all across the GTA. And I was in university at the time.
And just for a sec, just for our American listeners, GTA means the Greater Toronto Area.
Yes, the Greater Toronto Area. And like I thought, like, hey, I could get involved in any kind of business. There's all these goods that are moving all around. I could be a part of anything. But I don't want to just be a part of doing business for the sake of doing business. I want to feel good about what I'm doing. And I ended up moving to Vancouver, British Columbia on the West Coast, to start a career in sustainable business and green business. And this was back in 2004. And there really wasn't a lot. Sustainability was not mainstream. Green business was not mainstream. And in the Toronto area, green business meant recycling. And that wasn't really what I was interested in. I was interested in consumption and how we consume products and create waste, and just the more mentality and how it was creating problems. And I moved to Vancouver with this vision. Hey, I'm going to start a career in sustainable business. I don't totally know what this means for me, but I'm passionate about it and I'm going to figure it out. And when I moved to Vancouver, I ran out of money pretty quickly. I had made a bad decision. I bought a vehicle and kind of sunk all my money in this vehicle. And I had thought, hey, it would be easy to sell the vehicle when I got to Vancouver, but I couldn't. So I really needed to make money quickly. And it was the fall of 2004. And I was talking with a friend of mine saying, hey, I need to make some money quick. I thought I had a runway, but I don't. And he had said to me, he's like, hey, last Christmas, I sold gift baskets for a chocolatier. And companies give gifts to their clients at the holidays. Why don't you put some stuff in a basket, make it look nice, and sell some gift baskets? And I was thinking, I was like, gift baskets. I'm like, I really don't like gift baskets. I think they're really wasteful. You got like a little jam, and the basket and all the packs, all the packaging you need to make little products look big. And then you got the cellophane and the big bow. And then if you're going to ship it, you have to put it in a box, but it still needs to look good when it arrives. So you need all this other packaging so it doesn't move around when you ship it. And all I'm thinking about is it's so wasteful. There's all this packaging and waste. And I was in my mid-20s at the time, so I didn't have a ton of business experience, but the sales experience I did have, I knew that if I wasn't passionate about what I was selling, there was no way I could sell it. And I knew right then there, I'm like, yeah, that's not for me. But it made me ask a couple questions. Like, one, why do companies give gifts? And then two, like, well, what is it about this that isn't values aligned for me? And could there be a way to do it that is values aligned? So as I started learning really about business is all about people and relationships. And the truth is that anyone you give a corporate gift to, they can buy their own bottle of wine and they can afford their own box of chocolates. It's not the what that you're giving. It's really how you're making someone feel. Mm-hmm. To help make them feel appreciated. And as I realized that gifting is really about appreciation, I saw that you could give a gift that tells a story about local communities, supporting small local businesses, doing it the right way environmentally and socially. And those were all things that really aligned with my values around the type of business I wanted to create and run and feel good about going to work every day. Not just to make money, but to feel like I'm making a difference.
So in some ways, it helps the customer say to the people they're appreciating, I appreciate you, but I'm doing it in a way that is values aligned for me, that doesn't do any damage. And that's part of an expression of my respect or affection for you, is I want to recognize you, but in a good way.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, supporting small local businesses as a story behind, gifting and appreciation, most businesses can resonate with that because they're in business and they get it. So yeah, like what we found, like originally, like I remember when I launched the business, I thought like, hey, I'm coming at this from a really, like, I'd call it like a dark green perspective. Hey, I really want to create a sustainable business. But what we found as we started interacting with our clients, I thought our first clients were going to be like green technology companies and like people really pushing environmental sustainability. But what we found was we were working for law firms and professional service firms that employ local people, and they're raising families in that community. And they really resonated with supporting small local businesses because they saw those are the people who are sponsoring my kids' soccer team. And, it's community support. So I think it's a message that most businesses can get behind and create some good.
There's a couple of things about that are so cool. First, I think it's underappreciated how much being committed to values drives innovation. Like it's actually something that spurs the inventive spirit to say, I don't like the way this is done, but there's something about it that I like, but I have to do it in a way that resonates with me. So how can we innovate to do that in a different and better way? And that's super cool. I commend you for that. And the other part is, it's interesting how with a values alignment, there's something, I don't want to get too oogie boogie about it, but it's almost something kind of spiritual in a way, that you focused your business on a values alignment, but then some of your customers chose a different values alignment from what you did. Like it wasn't the values that you set out necessarily in terms of like environmentalism and sustainability, but the fact that it was so values aligned gave someone else an opportunity to find their own values within it.
Yeah, well, you can look at it from different perspectives, and like all businesses, you start doing something, you talk to customers, and you learn. You learn what resonates around what you're doing and what doesn't, and it shapes how you position your business. Like when we started in 2006, so it took me 2 years before I started the business from that initial idea. And yeah, we've been running it since full time since 2006. So almost 18 years, 17 full years now.
Nice. Now, was there, when you started, like when there is an innovation like that, I imagine in the universe of gift baskets, when everybody is used to having the thing come with a big cellophane and the bow, and then they get something that isn't that way, what was the reaction to it? Like, was there negative pushback, or were people like, thank God, finally somebody is not making me waste all this plastic?
The whole gamut, like there's certainly people who are like, hey, we're looking for gift baskets, who are looking for the basket and the cellophane and the bow. And there are people who, the early adopters, are like, oh, that's so cool. That resonates with me. And I was looking for a better solution. It was the first handful of years were really hard because we were really pushing the boulder up the mountain. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it wasn't what people were looking for. 2008, was not an easy year for business. 2009, and our business was growing. We were able to grow in that turbulent time, I think because we had such a different product and there were people who it resonated with, that we were able to acquire more market share every year, and we were able to grow. So I think, back then, like the business people I knew, were similarly to what a lot of companies are going through now, where people are cutting back and trimming and like figuring out how to do more with less, and having the realization of like revenue shrinking and how do you respond. Where I was so early that I was like, hey, I'm at the bottom part of the hockey stick.
Right.
But yeah, like I feel like we've transformed the gift basket industry through what we do. Like we were the first company doing it this way. And now there's all kinds of gift box companies sourcing local and doing it in a more conscious way. And I think the whole industry's shifted, and we've led the way.
And you've had some, like you're in a market dominant position in Vancouver, aren't you?
In Vancouver, yeah. In Vancouver, we are.
Now, was there? I'm curious. Just again, for people that don't know, there's quite a cultural difference between Vancouver and Toronto within Canada. Was there? Did you find there was a greater receptivity? Like there's this notion of Vancouver kind of being Lotus Land and Birkenstocks, and people are more environmentally friendly out there and that kind of thing. Was there a greater receptivity to it there than there was in Central Canada?
Well, it's just different. It's a different market. We didn't launch in Toronto right away. It took us many years before we launched in Toronto.
Yeah.
And, it's still a growing market for us. But yeah, it's been interesting to see the industry shift. And I think like I feel blessed, that we've been able to, shift the industry in a good way. That feels like a pat on the back, and a sign of encouragement to keep doing what we do.
Nice. Now, one of the things you and I talked before, and I was really interested in this, and I think it's such an important consideration for people who are wanting to do good, and also, frankly, for critics of people who want to do good. Often you hear things like, "Oh, look at the thing they're," they pick on the one thing that isn't doing that. But sometimes there's some constraints, and you and I talked a little bit, like the supply chain isn't necessarily fully aligned with this, right? Like there's a certain amount of, if there are no suppliers that have the same value set that you do, you have to make some compromises, right?
Well, yeah, like you can buy what you can buy, and if you don't like it, you can vertically integrate and figure it out yourself. And that's something that we've had that creative tension on over the years. Like way back in the day, we didn't like the idea of like the packaging materials you need to position products. Like you definitely need packaging materials to protect products when you ship them, to create a good unboxing and customer experience for folks. And the types of products that were available when we got started were not aligned values from an environmental perspective. So like we were producing our own recycled fill products for a while. We started working with local print shops that were providing us with offcuts from commercial printing presses, and then collecting them through a social enterprise in Vancouver's downtown east side, who's actually, they were collecting them on like push carts. Right. And these are people who are going through all kinds of social duress and stress and challenges in their life. So it was creating work opportunities and job employment in the community. They were picking up these like cases of like off-cut shredded paper and like wheeling them to our warehouse in the neighborhood. And then we were using those. And, that worked for a while, like up to a point, but it wasn't scalable. But yeah, if you don't like what you can source, like you innovate and you figure out how to do it better.
Right.
Until you learn something and, you keep moving forward. We've gone full circle on this actually. And it's one of our priorities and rocks for this year is like looking back at that like fill packaging material. And we're looking at figuring out how to do it in a better way again. Like what we're purchasing now is 100% post-consumer recycled. Which is great from an environmental perspective. But yeah, now we're looking to figure out how to do that and in a more cost-effective way. So yeah, that's the latest.
Continuing to innovate. That's great.
You got to.
Yeah. Now, so you just said something about doing rocks and doing your planning. So tell me, like, what do you do because this is an important thing for businesses like yours, because there's the business objectives and the social objectives, and it makes strategic planning, I think, more important, and perhaps requires a little bit more discipline. So how do you attack that?
Yeah, like honestly, we've gone about it in a couple different ways. When we first started doing strategic planning, we did it off of the scaling up framework and the Rockefeller habits.
Yeah.
And one-page strategic plan. So we did that for a whole bunch of years, pretty religiously, annually, with a retreat with the management team, and then all team days kind of after. And that was really great as we were getting started, and it helped us get really clear on our core values and our priority for the year and what we were going to take on. When that kind of got us, I don't know, maybe like 2015 to like 2020, when COVID hit, like our strategic planning kind of like it was really hard to keep up with because it was such a stressful time and such a full-on time. So yeah, we've really looked at it on a quarterly basis. Over the last couple of years, it's been more ad hoc, where instead of doing like a retreat and really getting clear on our priorities, we just look for themes. And as themes emerge, we identify, hey, this is a rock for us. And it's really based on our core values. So like one of our core values is handle with care. And it's really our making sure quality comes through in everything that we do, be it talking to a customer on the phone or how something's put together. That's important. And through COVID, there was more demand for our product than we had capacity for. And we've kind of gone through a reverse COVID, where when COVID hit, our business grew. Although it wasn't evident right out of the gate, but by the time we hit Christmas, we realized as Christmas parties were canceled, companies really needed a way to appreciate their employees. So yeah, it was a timing thing where we had a great product to appreciate and connect employees that we could deliver to people's homes. And yeah, there was more demand than capacity. So we were on this whole thing around capacity with care as like a core rock and priority every quarter. And we have continually worked on that for the last 3-4 years, this capacity with care rock, and looking at quality improvement, quality process and process improvements and customer experience, and all kinds of things related to delivering more better. So yeah, core values, and then projects that are important that help the business grow. For those not familiar with that methodology, it basically is like looking at how do you double your business in 3 years, and what are the core things that you would need to do to double your business in 3 years. And yeah, coming up with these are the things we need to do. Those become the rocks, and then you focus on them quarter by quarter, year by year, and work your way through it.
Now, have you found like one of the critiques I've seen of that, and I frankly have shared, is that a few of those planning methodologies, they're great at kind of getting to the high level objectives and what some of the tactical like priorities are. But in terms of distilling it down to the planning within the quarter, it still sits at a very general level. Like a lot of the work I do is to help take that kind of strategic planning, but make it super actionable. Like what actually happens this week, and how do you create the accountability within the team this week to make sure that thing actually happens, and everyone knows the specific steps in the tactics. When I've looked at a lot of those planning methodologies, they don't go down to that level of detail.
Mm-hmm.
Is that fair?
Yeah, like we've played around with this and getting into like 13-week plans for the quarter.
Yeah.
And then we've used this tool called Align today, which is it basically takes this scaling up framework that you can do at a high level and then bring it down into the week by week quarter, and the tasks and KPI that you could measure week to week to know if you're on track or off track. We have some folks on our team that like really are into it and have adopted it and have thrived in that environment. And others where it's been harder to do. And we certainly haven't been perfect. And there's a lot we could do better in this way. But there's also some good that's come out of it too, that's kept us moving in the right direction and making good improvements in business.
Now you said that you had a reverse COVID. So
yeah,
when COVID, there's something like counterintuitive about this. Like as people were socializing more, gift giving became less. Is that a fair?
Yeah, for sure. Like e-commerce grew a ton in 2020, 21 into early 2022. But then as things really opened up and people went back to normal, people were like really hungry for like going out, going to restaurants, going to entertainment, going out and experiencing the world outside of your bubble and home. So yeah, our business grew a ton 2021 into 2022, and we were scaling up. Like I was mentioning, there was more demand than supply and capacity, and we were working to grow. But then demand started decreasing. Companies started having Christmas parties again. Some of those folks, saw the value we were creating and saw how much their team appreciated personalized gifts sent to them, and we've retained clients. But some folks, the budget that was going to the Christmas party went to gift baskets, and then it went back to Christmas parties. So yeah, our business has shrunk over the last couple of years. We're larger. There is growth from like pre-COVID. But yeah, we're still figuring out like what's
trajectory.
Yeah, we're, figuring out, what is that growth from, pre-COVID to being able to plan and look forward and figuring out how to grow. And it's been really hard. The last 2 years have been really hard for us, in a period of contraction, trying to understand demand is hard.
And is it one of the things that often happens, especially for businesses that our values align? There's a temptation, right? That, oh my God, like if there's a shift in the economy, it would be so much easier to do it the way those guys do. That's cheaper, and maybe cuts corners and stuff. But that's not aligned with our values. So does that, like, have you faced those temptations, or has it just been we don't even think about that?
Yeah, one of our values is be local, which is sourcing locally.
Yeah.
Sourcing from local independent businesses. And actually, a cool fact is last year we were able to create 92,000 hours of living wage equivalent employment with small businesses in Canada through our local purchasing.
How do you measure that?
looking at the dollars that we've spent with independent local businesses and dividing by the living wage, living wage per hour. But yeah, like, so, what is local? Local, is for us, it's really local in the community within a day's drive of what we do. We've looked to get into like private label manufacturing of products for ourselves, where we work with local like bakeries and confectioners to develop products under a brand that we designed called Tasteful Snacks, to innovate, cut costs, and still create good product. The only thing that we do that's like not local, we have a local marketing contractor that we work with. That's a locally owned business, but they have a distributed team globally in South America and in Europe and in Asia. So they have a global team that's outsourced. But yeah, even like our executive assistants, admin assistants, we work with virtual folks, right. But they're based in Vancouver and they pay living wage in Vancouver. So yeah, like there's always temptation to like cut costs. But I think like for us, it's like, if it's not local, like what is it? Like it's just what other people are doing. I think like it's our differentiator. So if we're not true to our values, then.
Well, it's interesting because you talk about how you're in the business of building relationship through the source of gift giving, and to run your business with local supply and local relationships is living that example. It's living what the core service of your business is, which isn't gift baskets, but it's about cultivating relationship.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, that's great alignment. So what's next? What's the big dream? So you were, it sounds like a lot of businesses, there are a few industries, and I've got clients who had that experience where it was going up, then there was a spike, and then the spike ended, but they're still back to sort of business as normal. So it's contraction from COVID, but it's not contraction from the original business objective of growth. So where are you going next? Is it further geographic expansion? Is it just capturing more market within the places in which you play, or our product innovation? Like where's your focus next?
Our focus right now is in growing our market share in Toronto and working with Toronto area and Canadian companies with their client and employee appreciation programs. I think there's room for us to grow in that space and just like further establish our business model of having distributed local regional distribution for our product, which is pretty rare for a small business to do. So working towards ensuring that we can grow in that way and be profitable in that way. We have like a soft launch into the Quebec market, where we're distributing local Quebec products.
Right.
We're doing that currently out of Toronto. So eventually I'd like to be distributing that within Quebec. So yeah, we have a fulfillment partner in Montreal lined up and ready to go that we've got a relationship with, that we can work with. We just need the market to help us along.
And so what are in cultivating that market, what do you think are the biggest challenges to achieving that growth? Not just in Quebec, but just generally, like in the GTA area and Quebec, just for your growth objectives. What are either the obstacles or the challenges that you anticipate or are experiencing?
Yeah, like the biggest challenge we've had in doing more business in Toronto is that we don't currently have a team on the ground selling and building relationships with our clients on the ground. We've had a challenging time like scaling up our sales team. We've had salespeople in Toronto, but running a remote sales team that's like isolated from the rest of the team has just been a challenge for us. Running a virtual.
Can you see what that challenge is? Like, there are a lot of salespeople who are independent. So, like, what's the nature of the like what makes it a challenge? Is it just finding people who want to do it, or is it the sort of cultural integration?
It's hard for us to find the right people. I think mainly because there's a perception of it being a risk to work for a small business like ours. If you're established, doing great, selling product, to take a risk on working with a small business is a risk. Yeah. So I think that's part of it. But yeah, I think, I'm constantly looking at our sales process and working to improve it and make sure that it can work effectively to acquire new business. But yeah, over the years, it's been really challenging finding salespeople that can help to develop new business for us.
And are you looking primarily for established salespeople, or do you train up? Like, if you get a young hotshot, are you able to build them up quickly, or do you need people who have, a book of business or a book of relationships already?
We're open to both. But yeah, like I think for me personally, I think I need to spend more time in Toronto. I think that would certainly help. So yeah, that's on the menu for this year. I've got a few trips on the books to meet with clients and help grow our business.
And does your business, is your sales effort, let me actually rephrase what I was going to say. I'm always interested in how people do direct sales efforts like this. So is it cold cultivation, through outreach, or does most of it come through referral and existing relationship?
Cold outreach.
Yeah. And has cold calling been the most successful thing in your established markets? Or is there, is it more LinkedIn or marketing channels?
Well, I think you got to find folks that tick the right boxes of clients that look like and smell like the best clients that we have. And, you find them through research using tools like LinkedIn. But yeah, we have a couple tricks up our sleeve around, how to get in front of those folks and have them want to talk with us.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Finding the good salespeople is often, I actually had just a conversation with a client today around getting sales. And one of the things that is often missing, do you use any kind of profiling tools when you're hiring?
We haven't historically, no. Like DISC and things like that?
Well, I don't want to knock anybody. DISC is a good tool. It's descriptive of style, but it's not necessarily a predictor of performance in the same way, because you can have two Ds who are high D, but they'll show up very differently. So there's tools that actually do go into more detail. And one of the things I've observed in using these tools is there's one indicator that's a really powerful predictor of poor performance, even with somebody with sales skills. And it's interesting. It's something called energy level. And when someone has relatively low energy level, they could have great sales skills, but they will lack the capacity to churn high volume. And so if you want to hit numbers, they might even have a high conversion rate, but they'll always struggle to produce the numbers because they just don't kind of get out there as much.
Yeah, and how do you measure energy level?
Well, it's sort of a metric around how much capacity someone has to do work. So it's not physical energy so much. It's like pace and momentum and load capacity. And so there's assessment tools that actually help identify that.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah, it's because I've had a few clients who they were struggling with this very issue, and they made a couple of hires, and one of them in particular, I remember saying, this is going to end badly. Oh no, he's got lots of relationships. Oh no, he's really good in a sales call. Yeah, on the 3 sales calls he did a week, so it's really important to find that hungry person who's got the capacity to handle a load, as well as have the same. Now, do you do sales training as well? Like, you've been successful doing this on your own. So are you a sales trainer yourself?
Yeah, like I'm our sales manager, and I train our employees on our sales process. But yeah, like doing that remotely is challenging, because I find it's often easier to like have these kinds of conversations in person and naturally, like, over lunch and over coffee, like debriefing after a sales meeting.
Yeah.
And yeah, like, over the first couple years of COVID, we had a newborn baby.
Oh.
And we kept a very tight bubble. And I wasn't traveling. So the folks I had on the ground in Toronto, I only had a virtual relationship with.
Right.
And really, like, I don't think I performed particularly well as a sales manager and in that role at that time. And it's something I continually like look to improve and work on. And yeah, well, I've been making trips to Toronto and getting out. But yeah, my family's still pretty cautious around COVID.
Yeah.
And trying to keep healthy in our home. So yeah, it's been tricky.
Yeah. Well, sales management, it's interesting. Frequently, the best salespeople are not the best sales managers. And that's a skill set that needs to be learned, because they're actually very, very different skills. I think one of the biggest mistakes I see people make is they take someone who's a great salesperson and decide to make them a sales manager. And then it doesn't work as well. Now, you mentioned something earlier, and I just wanted to give you the opportunity to talk about it more, because you and I talked offline about this before, that you've got a branded packaging offering too, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. A lot of our clients like how we put their brand front and center in the gift experience. So we add client branding, either corporate branding or project branding, to the outside of the gift box, and also with the greeting card inside to match branded corporate colors, match to brand guidelines, and clients that have ongoing needs, like realtors and mortgage brokers. Often gifting will be transactional. Hey, we've got these mortgage renewals or these closings coming up. So we have clients go on our site and order gifts as they need them and add their branding. And yeah, that's a service that we offer that might be a fit for some listeners.
Cool. All right. I always finish off with just a few rapid fire questions. So what's one decision or action that most helped you get where you are?
Going swimming.
How so?
Just doing something for myself.
Good for you. Yeah, not enough entrepreneurs do that, look after themselves. I actually just joined a Muay Thai gym down the street, so same thing. If you had to do it over again, would you change anything, and if so, what?
Yeah, if I went back to 2006 when I started this business, I would have been more clear around understanding cash flow needs around running a seasonal business, and more intentionally thought through the impacts of seasonal business on cash flow.
Yeah, cash flow management is one of the most underappreciated and underdeveloped skills with entrepreneurs. I've created like a cash flow projection tool just for that reason. I've just one quick story. I had a client similar, well, opposite of you, during COVID, got really smoked. And I gave him this cash flow projection tool, and he fought me on it. All he wanted to do was work on sales. Now he never goes a meeting without looking at his cash flow projections. It's just become so critical to the success of the business. So I think you're spot on there. What's apart from that, what's one aspect of running a business you've yet to master?
Oh, so many things. Like just what I was saying, like sales management is certainly something I have not mastered.
Yeah, that's a tough one for a lot of folks, because it's all of a sudden taking these crazy people called salespeople and trying to, it's sort of a little bit of herding cats sometimes. What's one personal quality that you most had to improve or overcome to succeed?
Sometimes I talk too much.
The curse of the salesperson.
Yeah, like yeah, I don't know. I'm a pretty honest guy, and I think often, like, people know what I'm thinking, people know how I feel, because I don't hide my emotion.
Yep.
And yeah, that can be challenging at times. So I think that's something.
Can also be an asset too, I would imagine.
I think it shows people know where they are at with me.
Yeah.
So that I think helps. But yeah.
And what's
emotional intelligence, I think, is another thing, like, I constantly need to work at and work on.
Don't we all? And what's one personal quality that most contributed to your success?
Hard work. I think just when things need to get done, making sure they get done. And yeah, with my name on the wall, it's been an 18-year challenge growing the business.
Yep. That's such an important one, but it's not just hard work, it's smart work. But I tell you that, like, the clients who I've had who've been the most successful are the ones where it's idea, implement. Even if the idea doesn't work, it was like, had idea, build a plan, action it, evaluate it, move on to the next one. And those are the people who wind up just achieving the higher success. So how can people get a hold of you, Saul?
Online, it's saulgood.com, itsaulgood.com. And yeah, I'm Saul. So Saul at itsaulgood.com. Looking forward to hearing from folks. Happy to connect with anyone who wants to talk about gifting, relationships, sustainability, business, values, remote teams.
Yeah. Now, I just got to ask, how many jokes do you get about Better Call Saul?
Oh, I get that all the time. But we're the OG. We're the OG.
Yeah, they copied you, right?
They did.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Saul. It's been a real pleasure having you on here. And I just really commend the efforts you've made to stay consistent with your values, make an impact, and support local business while growing your own. That's just awesome.
Yeah, my pleasure, Warren. Thanks so much for having me on.
Cheers.
Take care.